Hey, This Old Marketing listeners, did you know that Streamyard is the easiest way to create content right in your browser? You can multi-stream to your social media platforms, host a weekly show with special guests, create webinars, record podcasts with local recordings, create videos, and more. Much, much more. And they make it easy to brand and customize your videos inside the studio before you even go live. StreamYard is super popular with live streamers, video creators, YouTubers, and podcasters. With features like live streaming, webinars, local recordings, screen sharing, and more, StreamYard makes it simple to get your professional and polished content every time. Every time, folks. Get started today for free at www.streamyard.com. Do it today.
And now, for your listening pleasure, here's Polizzi and Rose, covering the week of media, marketing, and digital content news. This Old Marketing. Take it away, boys.
Hello, my friends. This is Robert Rose. And welcome to episode number 366 of This Old Marketing for Friday, March 10th, 2023. And with me, as always, my pal, my colleague, and let's face it, a guy who hasn't seen this weekend's Oscar contenders, but did actually pay good fiat currency to see 80 for Brady, Mr. Joe Polizzi.
Dude, you did go there. That was supposed to be between us.
You know what? I'm afraid you may have to turn. It's not about a man card, but it is about I don't know what it is. Some sort of card you need to turn in after going to see a young person's card, maybe for going to see 80 for Brady.
Well, there's a couple things to that. First of all,
okay, I want to hear this story because this. Yeah, I'm a little concerned for you.
There's a group of people out there that will totally understand this. I'm married.
I don't think there is.
No. I'm married, and my wife wanted to go see a certain movie, and of course, of course, I love popcorn, so I'm going to please my wife by going to this movie. At the same time, I'm going to eat popcorn. It was not the worst experience ever, but I do have to tell you because I was talking with our friend JK, and texted me after the last episode because I was talking about how silly Cocaine Bear was. He basically texted me. He said, exactly. You can't say anything about Cocaine Bear since you saw 80 for Brady. I'm like, touche. You're right.
Yeah. I will be, and full transparency, some little elf with giant glasses and a Rolling Stone t-shirt may have texted me to say, to tattle on you that you had actually seen 80 for Brady.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
I just talked to him yesterday. He's gonna get a little talking to.
I mean, goodness gracious.
Nobody was supposed to know. Yes.
You are one of the 5 people who have seen that movie, your wife being one of the others. So there's 3 other people who have seen that movie.
I don't know what to say. I give it a solid 5 because it wasn't the worst movie I've ever seen, to be honest with you. And I got to tell you, Tom Brady's a good-looking chap. I mean, he is. He's just... He looks
in the movie?
What's that?
Is he in the movie?
He is in the movie, and I believe he's executive producer. I think this is a content marketing movie for Tom Brady.
Of course he's in the movie.
The whole thing is Tom. Yeah, obviously, it's in the title, but the whole thing is basically a genuflect to Tom Brady. And he does look really good. But what's funny about the whole thing, I'm not giving really anything away, so it doesn't matter. Nobody listening to this
I think you
watch it.
I think you probably could give the whole plot of it. I'm gonna hazard a guess. Some senior ladies go out and want to see Tom Brady play football. And so there's a journey here. That's the hero's journey of these ladies getting to the Brady game, and it's filled with shenanigans. Am I right?
That's it. That's absolutely it. But it's historical fiction. First of all, it is based on somewhat a true story. But it's built around the Patriots comeback against the Falcons. What was that? 18, 17?
Yeah, 18, I believe.
18. And so I watched that Super Bowl, one of the most amazing Super Bowls I've ever seen. And so now they become part of
Not if you're a
the story.
Falcons fan. That's what. So it's just a fun side fact. That is what got Dan Quinn, who was then the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, got him ostensibly fired.
That's right.
Which made him available to become the defensive coordinator of the Dallas Cowboys, and he's now one of the most respected defensive coordinators in the league at the moment.
So it all worked out.
It all works out, right? Yeah.
I didn't realize that 4 women over the age of 80 played such an important role in that Super Bowl.
There it is. There it is.
It's incredible.
It's truly the hero's journey. Yeah, I can't imagine life without those.
So now, we really need to stop. We spent 5 minutes on talking about 80s
there we go.
Brady.
Yeah.
Thank you, JK.
Well, okay. So here's something that's slightly better than 80 for Brady, which is you launched your book this week, and it was I have to say, it was one of the best business-to-business book launches I've seen in a long time. Do you want to talk a little bit about what made it so great?
Thank you. First of all, so thankful for all the support. You had a great many posts. You've been talking about it. Of course, you're in the book. So, of course.
Yeah, I mean, it's 10% better because I'm in it.
It's much better than the last horrible version because you actually write a chapter in this one. But I was amazed by the number of big influencers and friends of ours that promoted this, and a couple learnings if you want to talk about it. We had 2 major lists. We had one list of influencers, and we do a couple things. First of all, every one of these list of about 75 people that we want them, like you, we want them to mention the book. We put in the book somewhere. So we strategically did that. And it was easy to do because they're all very smart people. So we went and then we sent them a care package. And that care package included the book and a couple cookies of the book, what we call bookies. Yeah. Which I think should be a side business.
No, it really shouldn't.
Yes, it should.
It should not.
Anyways, so those people got that. And I'll tell you what really worked well. And you had something to do with this, Robert. So we sent out the 75, and then I got their emails, and the day before the launch, which was March 7th, I sent out a note and I said, hey, it's time, really could use your help. And I put 2 examples of people that already promoted the book and to set up a little competitive thing, I think. Yours was in there with the tequila, which was great. Yep. And Ann Hanley's was in there. And she just, her LinkedIn post went crazy. It got, I don't know what it was, like 30 or 40,000 impressions. It was just nuts how that one just went around. And I said, see if you can do better than these 2. And people actually tried. So you saw a lot of
Andrew Davis.
Oh my God.
The marketing mushroom might be my favorite thing that he's done.
The marketing mushroom. And then I went and I checked on GoDaddy and said, is marketingmushroom.com available? And it is not. So I'm thinking this might be a thing in the future that he's going to do, which is kind of scary. And anyways, so that worked really well. So you put them into the book, your influencers put them into the book, and then set up this little competitive thing. Make sure you give them all the assets. Worked really, really well, especially on LinkedIn. And then the other thing, you and I were talking about it beforehand, because you've got your book launch coming up, and you didn't know whether you should put together a launch team. And
that's right.
Brian Piper.
It always feels so, I don't know, just forced. It just feels forced to me, this whole launch team thing. But you're talking me into it.
Well, so we did a couple. We said, hey, last call if you want to be on the launch team. We ended up getting 199 people signed up. And we put together a specific page for just the people who wanted to be part of the launch team. And we gave them a bunch of assets, and we gave them stuff like, they got insight. We did a little webinar, Brian and I. We gave them things that nobody else would get. We're going to put together a little thank you reception for just those people at Creator Economy Expo, those types of things. And it's worked it's still continuing to work. They're all posting. They're all very excited about it. Of the 199 people, I think 130 or so joined the LinkedIn page, which is phenomenal. Which, just to get that, I didn't think that would happen. And these are the nicest people on the planet. And the thing is, these are people that you and I already know. They're the people that listen to the podcast. Yeah. They're people that already support us. And it's just a really good way to sort of bring our super fans into the mix. So if I have to go back and say, okay, why is this marketing for the book working so well. It's that influencer strategy, very focused, because that list was like 200. We really narrowed it down to who's the 75 we want to spend our time with to do this thing well. And then the next thing was about this, launch team thing, which I actually think you should do. And it's just a way, and that's what I think you and I were talking about beforehand. The worst thing that could happen is you bring your super fans in a little bit closer to what you're doing in your content creation journey. So it can't go wrong.
It's right. It's either it's not negative, right?
Yeah.
In other words, it either basically builds a little bit of goodwill, or you hit it out of the park, right? So nice. Well, I think that's fabulous, and you're talking me into it. So I'm going to hit you up again in the summertime when it's time to, because I literally hit send over the weekend on my final manuscript with the images. And,
that's great.
Citations and all those kinds of things. I'll talk a little bit about that in Rants and Raves.
When's your book? When's the published date?
September 26th. It's the first day. We're timing it to be exactly on the first day of Content Marketing World. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's handy.
Yeah, it's very cool. It's very cool that they're Kogan Page has been really great to work with. They've really molded their marketing and production strategy around the making sure that the book gets the best lift off it can possibly get. And I was pleasantly surprised to see them put out. So they're putting out a hardcover version of it. And so if you go on Amazon, and it's on Amazon now, but for pre-sale, but nobody's talking about it yet, of course. But the hardcover is not just a hardcover with a paper jacket; it's a hardcover with the graphics and stuff sort of burned into the actual hardcover. So it's beautiful. They're sending me a copy of what it might look like. And it's wonderful. I mean, you know me, right? I care about that kind of stuff, right? So it's expensive as all get out, the hardcover book. But the reason they do it is because a lot of the international libraries and some of the domestic ones here in the States as well, some of the libraries won't take paperbacks into their libraries, and one of their big markets is, of course, libraries and international libraries, and so they have to make it. So they figure if we're going to make it, we might as well make it awesome.
That's really cool. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I'm interested when you're done with this process because, obviously, Epic Content Marketing was published again by McGraw-Hill. Love the folks at McGraw-Hill, but we've talked about it on this show. Traditional publishers do some things really well and some things not so well. Like marketing is sort of not. And I'm interested to see you're working with another traditional publisher, if you will. What's the difference? We know what the Wileys do of the world, so it's just interesting to get insight.
Yeah, I'll have a whole, when we're doing our show in, I don't know, let's call it mid-October or something, after things of where I am, where you are, then I'll give you a full report.
It'll be interesting too. It'll be interesting too because our NFT private community, we've got about 70 people in that community. We're doing a joint book together called The Content Entrepreneur, which will come out later this year. And we're going to use Lulu for that. And I haven't used, I love what Lulu's doing from the data prioritization, but I've not used them since I tested them 4 years ago. So I'm really interested to see, okay, now we'll get a really good differential. Okay, what's McGraw-Hill? You've got your publisher. You can publish yourself. So lots of different options out there.
I like it. We should do a show on that when it comes out. We should do a whole show on publishing a book.
Well, you know how I feel. I mean, half my posts lately have been about publishing.
I know.
I really believe that because even of the creators, most of the people that come to Creator Economy Expo have an expertise in something, whether it's marketing or sales or communication or AI or whatever. And that's how they're going and building an audience around that expertise. And I believe that if that's your strategy, you need a book. You need a drop down on a desk thumping business card that says, this is my mission statement. This is what I stand for. And I know you and I talk to so many people that they've been thinking about it. They just haven't done it. They haven't put it into their kind of workflow and strategy to get a book out. And it's never been easier to do it. And so I'm out there evangelizing that as well. So
Yep. As I have always said since we published our first book 13 years ago, don't expect to make money from a book, but expect it to add a 0 to your billing rate.
Oh my God, that is a great quote.
Oh, thank you.
That is a wonderful quote. And the second thing
Yeah.
I just realized is I cannot believe it's been 13 years since managing content marketing.
Right? Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh my God.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which we self-published.
With that,
yeah, we self-published.
Yes,
one.
yeah. On that note, should we get to our show?
No, let's just talk about our books and
Yeah,
a bunch of
let's just talk
nonsense.
about
Oh,
us
we can
more.
continue to talk about a bunch of nonsense, but we'll couch it around some news. How about that? Let's do that.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. We can be like some of the other social media influencers that are out there, and they only talk about themselves. Oh,
Snap.
oh, snap. All right,
Yeah.
here we go.
Yeah.
We have a great show. We're going to talk a little bit about TikTok and the ban bills because they're moving fast and furious through the government, and we'll talk about the status of that and where that is. We'll talk about Medium. Remember that good old platform, and it has now opened up Mastadon to its members. Fascinating thing there. I'm getting emails saying that my Medium posts from like 5 years ago are actually getting some traction. That's kind of weird. We'll talk about how everybody is getting an AI pony. Microsoft, HubSpot, Salesforce, all this week announced AI integrations to their solutions, and we'll talk about what that might mean for marketers. And then Wired, the magazine, of course, it has published its guidelines on using artificial intelligence and how it is going to use it. And we'll talk about whether content creators should consider doing something similar. And if we have time, we probably won't, but if we have time, we'll talk about how marketers are starting to adapt to reach these new siloed audiences now that fragmentation is starting to happen in social media. In our Rants and Raves section, I will rave a little bit about some things that had made tools that made my book finishing a lot easier. And then I will also, commentary, I guess is the right thing, about an article in The Information. It was an interview with the CEO of OpenAI and what he thinks about what Musk is doing with regard to creating a new non-woke AI. Anyway, I'll
Is that a
noke?
noke?
That and then
Is that noke?
yeah, woke,
Woke.
woke,
Non-woke? Non-woke is
non-woke.
noke.
Well, sleep, I guess, would be, if it's non-woke, it would be sleep, I guess.
Oh.
Anyway, Joe will then rant and rave and probably really give a lot of love to this wonderful post. It's really the Jack Handy for
Yes,
living life
it
before
is.
you die.
It is.
Yeah.
It'll be lovely. People will
It'll
like
be
it.
it will be lovely. It
People will
be
come.
lovely. All right, let's get on to it. Let's get on to our show, and here we go. Our top story that we're going to cover here: U.S. senators unveil bipartisan bill. This is amazing. This is the one thing that the U.S. can be bipartisan about, empowering Biden to actually ban TikTok and other services. This comes to us courtesy of CNN. The article opens up by saying a dozen U.S. senators unveiled bipartisan legislation on Tuesday, that's this Tuesday, 2 days ago as we record this, expanding President Joe Biden's legal authority to ban TikTok nationwide, marking the latest in a string of congressional proposals threatening the social media's platform future in the U.S. The legislation, called the Restricting the Emergency of Security Threats That Risk Information and Communications Technology. Some of the names of these bills, because they try and twist themselves into knots to get a cool acronym. It's called the Restrict Act. So get it? Restricting the Emergency of Security.
Can you
Threats That
imagine
Risk
the group meetings?
There's a whole pizza
on that.
There's a whole pizza a whole pizza went down for that naming. Anyway, it does not target TikTok specifically, but it does aim to give the U.S. government new powers up to and including a ban against foreign-linked producers of electronics or software that the Commerce Department deems to be a national security risk. The proposed law takes a wide-ranging approach to fears that companies with ties to China could be pressured by that country's government to handing over American sensitive personal information. In the case of TikTok, lawmakers have said that China's national security laws could force TikTok's Chinese parent ByteDance to provide access to TikTok's user data. You've been talking about this for a long time. So are we finally getting there? You think this is going to happen soon?
No, absolutely, absolutely not. I think we're on the path, and you're mentioning the fact that I've been talking about for the last probably year plus, that because of growing tension specifically between China and the U.S., that the U.S. would ban TikTok. And by the way, if you own, I own a few Chinese stocks, and they are really getting punished right now, because the more that this gets out in the news, the more people feel, oh, okay, well, maybe they won't be trading on the U.S. market and those types of things. Yes, so there is definitely something here. The market is working like this thing is going to happen ultimately. But my concern, and this is what I want to talk to you about, this is very overreaching. I don't know if you downloaded the PDF with the actual words associated with this. Did you look at the PDF that was in the...
I have not yet. No, I have not yet. So I would be relying on you.
That's okay. I perused it. It and looked at it. It's a little sleep-inducing, but it's very overreaching. And I know why they did this. And even the article in the CNN talks about the fact that they don't just, what's the quote at the end? Somebody says they don't want to just play whack-a-mole. Who says this? Instead of playing whack-a-mole on Huawei one day, ZTE the next, Casper, whatever, on and on, TikTok, we need a more comprehensive approach for evaluating and mitigating these risks posed by these foreign technologies from these adversarial nations, said Warner. This is a concern to me because I like the idea of capitalism. I like free markets. And even though you're working with China, who's not a capitalistic society, this could get big quickly. So if something happens, and I think I said it last episode, or maybe it was a couple before that, if something happens that triggers this to really move quickly, this could set back our relationships with all sorts of international companies, even though they only list China and Iran and North Korea and a couple other ones in the bill itself. I'm concerned. I don't know if you are, but I could see the U.S. government shifting their policy to be so restrictive that it impedes free speech the way we believe free speech should, and choices the way they should be had. I would have liked to see this just done on TikTok, but they didn't. They said, no, let's make it bigger. And I think that's a concern of mine.
I 100% agree. I think this is yet again an indication of how little the Hill, especially, understands about the way content, data, media flows in today's world. They just don't understand it. And so they're treating it like they're shipping, microchips or coal or something, right? And so what they're ostensibly saying is, well, we don't want to play whack-a-mole on the different companies that are shipping coal across the ocean and being able to stop that. So we're going to put a blanket on anybody who basically produces these things from countries that we consider untoward, right? And let's be honest, we're talking about China here. They're not talking about anybody else, right? I mean, this is China. Iran. There's just not a lot of technology innovation coming out of Iran. Sorry.
Yeah, everything else is a just in case. You're right.
Yeah, I mean, everything else is, so the whack-a-mole argument doesn't really ring really very true to me with this particular thing. Because the other thing is that you're assuming that these companies can't just move, right? You know what I mean? They just, they'll move somewhere else. And so you are ultimately going to play whack-a-mole at some level. What is needed here is rather more of the surgical type of approach. Like you're saying, I don't know if it's company specific, because that gets a little weird too, right? In terms of free markets and whatnot. But it feels like there is a surgical... This is much more about a privacy challenge than it is about any one company in any one country, right? So what we need is the American version of GDPR is what we really need.
Yep.
Because that would solve a lot of what we're talking about here at a surgical level, and by the way, at a domestic level as well. And so a privacy bill or a privacy law that actually does address privacy of data of Americans would solve a lot about what's going on here, because by then, TikTok in particular would either have to change its behavior or it would have to be banned in the US because of it, right? It couldn't operate in the same way, which either forces them to alter the alter the program, much like Facebook has had to alter in Europe, and much like Google has had to alter in Europe, and now Apple is actually being made to change the way that they do their hardware plugins to the iPhones in Europe, which is now coming to the U.S. because, of course, they don't want to have a European version and a U.S. version for cost purposes. So there are ways to address this in a much more surgical way that isn't so blanket and isn't so, deaf to the way that media and content and data flow across the world these days. And so that's the thing that is, this is classic politics, right? It plays well at home. So the kinds of things that they're doing that they can go, we've taken on China, and we're banning all these things for national security because go America, right? And so it's once again sort of just showing to me that we don't get it. We just don't get it.
It's a concern that this is so far-reaching, especially with. I mean, there's still things coming out about COVID, and you've got people blaming China, and so there's this anti-China thing going on right now, and it's into everything. Now we have a specific problem with TikTok because of the fact that TikTok can move sentiment, in my opinion. Because they have the best algorithm on the planet. It is the most it's the most influential social media app right now, in my opinion, in the world. And
of course,
Americans love it, right? So they could move sentiment if they wish to do that. But to go in and say we're going to fix this problem with not not a hammer, if you will. We're gonna bring in the entire army and the fleet to fix this too. Right. This is the problem. This could get ugly, in my opinion. It could go south quickly, especially. I don't know. I'm
I
depressed
think it's
by
not
this.
going anywhere. Yeah, I think it's not going anywhere. I think you're right. It's not going anywhere right now. I think there's a trigger. Yeah. Something is going to have to happen, and we're kind of every week. It's just there's a little bit more tension that's going on between the U.S. and China, but that's going to keep ebbing and flowing. But if something specific happens, this thing can go, and Biden will use it because he'll have pressure from both parties, as you said, to do something. And make no mistake here. This is not your regular Congress critter getting smart about technology and finally waking up to this fact. This is the lobby from Meta. Let's just so Meta, Twitter, Google, Amazon, all of them. That this is that lobby, the tech lobby, that's basically coming in and saying, "Do it, fight, do it." They want this in the worst way because it gets rid of a competition.
Yes. Well, I don't know if you saw earlier. It was last week or earlier this week. Snapchat stock boomed on this news.
Yeah.
On this news.
Yeah,
so if you don't think that so they added $1 billion or whatever they did to their market cap because there's news that TikTok might be banned. It's a big deal for these companies.
Huge deal.
So you don't think that Snapchat and Google and Apple and Microsoft have their lobbyists in there? They absolutely do. They probably wrote restrict.
I would not be surprised at all.
Not that this is conspiracy theory show, but
no.
Let's just put it out there.
They bought the pizza. They bought the pizza for that room that came up with that acronym.
It's a pizza party.
I guarantee you. It's a pizza party. What's it going to be? Are we going to call it retract? No, retract doesn't work. How about restrict? Restrict. Oh, my God, you're a genius, Barbara. Okay, let's move on now to our next story here, which comes to us courtesy of TechCrunch. The headline here, Medium, remember Medium? They launched a premium Mastadon instance as a membership perk. Publishing platform Medium is opening up its Mastodon instance, me.dm, to its members, the company announced today. Last month, Medium first teased its plans around the Fediverse. The group interconnected servers powering a range of open-source decentralized applications, including the Twitter alternative Mastodon and others. It said it wanted to make access to me.dm a perk included with Medium membership, offering a place for authors and readers to discuss the content published on its platform. The company explained at the time that this would make for an interesting local feed, a reference to how Mastodon users can view a dedicated feed of just the conversations happening in their own instance, in addition to those happening more broadly across the federated servers, those servers that their local server knows about and is connected to. In addition, Medium said that it would tackle some of the onboarding challenges involved with joining Mastodon by making it easier for newcomers to find both the people and topics that match their interest as part of its onboarding flow. Article goes on here to talk about the similarities that it has to others and some, basically repeating for SEO purposes of the same point over and over again. But basically, it's this that they are really trying to make Mastodon a thing as a feature. Do you think this is this just a desperate grasp for relevance in today's world from Medium, or is this something that is serious and we should pay attention to?
No, yeah, I know that you're a big Mastodon fan. So
I'm not. Well, I'm a Mastodon fan. I'm not sure I would say I'm a big fan. I mean, I'm still using it and I'm enjoying it, and I like the fact that it's a quiet restaurant instead of a loud party. But other than that, I recognize the challenges with it for sure.
Yeah, so I mean that aside, for whatever that's worth, I think this is big ol' yawner. I think this is Medium should be going directly after Substack.
Exactly.
And they're doing this as a membership perk. I mean, I'm like, who cares? I mean, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
Sure.
It's okay. It's good even. But it is boring as heck when Medium has the opportunity to help their creators build an audience of an addressable database and go head to head against Substack. They could take that back, what they once had the opportunity to get, and they're not doing it, and they're doing this kind of stuff. Come on. That's what I would say. Nothing against Medium. I would just say think bigger because they have the opportunity. Now, if they decide not to because they don't want to be around in the future, then fine. Good for you. Good for you.
That's right.
That's what I would say.
Yeah, it feels that's what it feels like to me. It feels very much to me like they have lost a lot of presence in the marketplace. Like just nobody's talking about them. And this feels very much like, hey, remember us? Remember us? We're still over here. We're still working. We're still trying to do things and not doing terribly meaningful, innovative things. It just, Substack is drinking everybody in that space's milkshake right now. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. Substack is on a hockey stick trajectory at the moment, and it's amazing. It's amazing, and this feels very much like we're still here kind of thing. And I think I don't think it'll matter at all. I don't think it'll cause a small or a medium or a large size ripple. I think the bigger story here is what happens now to Medium, right? What happens? Can someone come in a la Elon and pull it in, because of course it used to be part of Twitter and then it isn't, and then can it actually be pulled back into Twitter for Elon to make a much more broader platform, a Substack-like platform for Twitter, which would be a huge boost, by the way. And I don't know if you saw the news that he's getting some external investment now. He's actually getting. It looks like there have been a couple of deals he's closed to get some external.
You're talking about Twitter.
Twitter, the new Twitter,
new Twitter.
So there may be some things coming in Twitter's future.
So Medium members. So this whole thing is packaged into a Medium membership. So I'm not a Medium member, but it says it's running from $5 per month to $50 per year. Whatever. You know what? Forget that. The members. Right. I think the membership part. Offer the service. Offer the Substack type service. Have it be free for the first 100 subscribers or 50 subscribers, and then charge your monthly plan based on subscribership. That's right. That model will work for Medium. But you're going to say, let's put in another thing, a feature. You say this all the time, Robert. Oh, just features. Let's put in another feature and we could charge $5 more for it. No, nobody wants this. So
that's right.
It's like
that's right. That's right.
Did you see the new Chris Rock special on Netflix?
I have not yet. I have not. It's on my to watch list.
I'm not going to give anything away, but the really interesting example is I think he's talking about, I forgot who, maybe Patagonia, whatever. He's talking about a Patagonia type company. No, he's talking about a car. And he said, hey, if you buy my car, I'm going to donate $250 to your favorite charity. And Chris said, that's a stupid idea. He said, you know what you do? Give me $250 off my car. I'm the number one charity.
Right.
Like, do it for me.
Yeah, right.
Like, I don't care about your whole charity. That's what this feels like. It's just like,
That's right.
we're going to do something nice and do the Mastodon thing. It's like, no. Just offer the service, Anyways.
Yeah. Just be good at what you do. Yeah.
It really is. And by the way, it is definitely not safe for work. But it's really interesting, especially with Chris coming off the whole Will Smith thing, which he talks about at the end for 10 minutes. So,
yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to watch it. Yeah. I can't wait to watch it. All right, let's move on to our next story here, which is about AI. And this week, you knew it was coming, and this week seemed to be the week for it. HubSpot, Salesforce, and Microsoft all announced integrations of generative AI. And the fascinating thing to me here is that all of them seem to be leveraging OpenAI. So it's like, why not just go to the source? But yes, so this we'll have 3 links in the show notes covering each of the companies here. From Ad Age is the announcement on Microsoft, announcing that it will have an AI assistant for marketing and customer service in their new Dynamics 365 product, which is now going to be called Dynamics 365 Copilot. And that'll be for applications to do things like being able to automatically draft a customer service email or be able to chat and create a contextual chat for your customer service rules and how-tos and all those kinds of things, which will be all of the new capabilities are being released in preview form and are being tested by early customers. And then there is an article about Salesforce, which, by the way, totally had their, how do you like them apples moment. Holy smokers, did they crush their fourth quarter earnings and sort of go, they went, hey, by the way, we're still here, and we're still crushing it, by the way. I loved that announcement from Salesforce and had a chance to talk with some of the folks over there. And anyway, they're it's a good company that has gone through some weird crap of late. But I'll get off on a rant on that. But basically, they came out and said, hey, by the way, we had this whole Einstein AI thing. Remember, we launched that in 2016. But basically, we're going to relaunch it and call it Einstein GPT and infuse OpenAI's technology into our new solution. And that will give much the same kinds of things that we just talked about with Microsoft on the thing, which is going to be, hey, we can help you craft emails and marketing, help marketers do landing pages, help customer service do all these things through a natural language chat interface. And then, not to be outdone by any of them, HubSpot actually announced this week 2 new AI-driven tools. One, another generative content, like the world needs another generative content tool, but basically a content assistant that allows you to write high-quality content, says the press release, and basically do suggesting of blog titles and writing blog content and emails and all those kinds of things. But the more interesting one that I think Dharmesh himself is working on directly is what they call Chatspot.ai. And that one is a natural language sort of interface that helps you do tasks, right? So add contacts and companies to the CRM system, ask for custom reports like marketing, sales, and all those kinds of things, or again, draft emails that are personalized to people in your CRM system. And that'll be very interesting. So with all of that, I definitely have a take on all of this. What is yours on sort of where all this is going?
Well, yeah, Microsoft and Salesforce and HubSpot all doing some great work, but this feels very eerily similar to the end of 2020, beginning of 21, when Web3 just took off. And all these big companies had to have a take on it. They launched their thing, they got active, they said we're getting involved in the Web3 communities and whatever. And it spiked up and then came back down. So we've seen more AI launches of some kind of products or integrations in the past 2 months than we've had ever. So I think that this is the trend for the next few more weeks, and then we'll go back to, okay, like, what are we really going to do with this? And there's nothing wrong with these things. I mean, I think it's amazing what Dharmesh has been able to do, like creating Chatspot. He's been posting it on LinkedIn. I've been seeing it. It sounds like it's him. And he's creating it, and he's bringing 100. He says he's bringing 100 alpha members in every day and seeing what they're doing and getting back and really doing, one-to-one customer service type stuff. So, and that's just amazing that that's sort of his role at HubSpot as co-founder. But I think we're going to see another 3 of these next week and another 4 of these the next week. And I almost like just go to the source. But this is the shining hour for AI integrated tech. And in 6 months, we're probably not going to talk about these things for a while. That's my take.
Well, here's what I say. To me, the interest, we talked a little bit about this last week on the show. To me, this integration is where AI will earn its keep. And what I mean by that is in all of the non-obvious ways that AI will be useful for doing existing tasks and getting streamlining workflow for marketers and people who use this software on a day-to-day basis. In other words, being able to say, hey, give me a report on last week's performance of this email campaign. And literally the AI spits out your report all formatted and ready to roll, right? Instead of having to go click and type and drag and drop this and figure out all of that, that's going to be the interesting application. The whole let's write original content. Let's write a blog post. Let's write a white paper summary. Let's write a thing. It already feels commoditized.
Yep.
And so the idea there that everybody's differentiating on that right now is, to me, a failure of marketing. That's a differentiate. So what I would say to all 3 of these companies is, shut up about the generative content stuff. Every solution will have that. It's like every solution will have the ability to email somebody. Every solution will have the ability to have workflow task management in their software, because you have to. That's like table stakes these days, and that has quickly gotten there. It's amazing and truly remarkable how fast we've gotten to the commoditization of this thing. But literally, you go to chat.openai.com, you get an account, and you can do everything that they're talking about doing here. However, now here's the interesting part, and we talked about this last time too. What's going to be more interesting to me is how these companies, HubSpot, Microsoft, Salesforce, whoever, starts to tailor the learning models and the data that they're using to just you. In other words, to just your company, to tune. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this in my commentary at the end, in the Rants and Raves section. But the more interesting thing is, how do you start manipulating the learning model so that it's more useful to you as a user, not just what the internet believes? Because the uselessness of a marketer being able to go, hey, what's the first photograph being taken by the Hubble space telescope, that's useless to a business user. What's useful is being able to look at the corpus of 40,000 documents in my library, and only my library, and start telling me, okay, how do I write this new press release in the style of my brand? That's what's going to be really and truly useful. And so I think that there's the differentiator. So the first one of these companies, HubSpot, Microsoft, Salesforce, whoever, that starts coming out and saying, hey, it's not the internet's learning model, or it's not OpenAI's learning model, it's your learning model. We're gonna tailor this thing for you. That will be the interesting things to watch, and then integrate it into the workflow, and you've got something interesting there.
Interesting, yeah. I haven't thought about that, but that would be the right positioning versus the fact that you can't. I mean, I think to your point, the conversation that I'm seeing on social media is, will AI take my writing job is silly. It's the wrong conversation. I think you're right. This is the wrong conversation that we should be having.
Yes, so. It is the wrong conversation, and it's because Anyway, we get off on a rant there, and we should probably move on to our next story. But it will be interesting to follow for sure. By the way, I'm diving deep here. I'm really enjoying the exploratory work that I've been doing in this space, and so
nice.
It's been fun. Okay. Let's move on to our next story here, and this is a really interesting one, a fun one for us to sort of, before we get to rants and raves, talk a little bit about. It is also about AI, and by the way, thanks to Paul Reitzer for keying me into this article that he talked about on a podcast that he was on. See how I did? I brought him back. I brought him back
again. You just can't let him go. Right? You miss him.
He makes me want to be a better man. Okay, so... All right. The headline here, how Wired will use generative AI tools. This comes right from the source, from Wired.com. And it's basically talking about them writing their own little manifesto, if you will. Some publications are already using text and image generators, says Wired. Here's how we will and won't use the technology. The article goes on by saying, like pretty much everybody in the past few months, journalists have been trying to figure out generative AI tools like ChatGPT to see whether they can help us do our jobs better. AI software can't call sources, wheedle information out of them, but it can produce half-decent transcripts of those calls, and new generative AI tools can condense hundreds of pages of those transcripts into a summary. Basically goes on in this article to talk about how what their policy will be about publishing stories with text generated by AI, how they will not publish text edited by AI. They may try to use AI to suggest headlines. They may try to use AI to generate story ideas, and they may experiment with using AI as a research or analytical tool. They go on and on and on, and it's a fantastic, wonderful sort of manifesto here about how the transparency that they're providing. Do you think this is going to become like the normal thing for content creators, publishers, media companies to do? I mean, are we going to have to get to a place where we disclose what is and isn't going to be used by artificial intelligence? What do you think?
Well, before I read this, I would have said no, but now I say definitely. I think that this is sort of part of the mission statement for a content creator, content brand in any way, about how you use it. I think it's important, at least for right now, it feels like it's important. I mean, the fact that they go through their commandments. We do not publish stories with text generated by AI. We do not publish text edited by AI either. And they go down all the way to the bottom. We do not publish AI generated images or videos and they go into say why. Until the lawsuits going on with image generators, we're not going to be involved in that. Like, I really think this is a very simple document. I'm super impressed by it. I would say that we'll put it in the show notes. I think that every content creator should read it, take a look at it, and tell their audience this is how we use it. I think people right now want to know. Now, in 6 months or a year, maybe they don't care. Maybe this is not an issue. But right now, it feels like the right thing to do. I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's a short-term thing.
Yeah.
I think this reminds me very much of it reminds me very much of how in the early days, companies, and I'm not saying this is a good thing. I'm not suggesting at all that this is a good thing, but in the early days, how there were disclosures on things like ADA compliance and other elements of content compliance that companies used to put on their websites to say, here's how we comply with the ADA, the American with Disabilities Act is what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not suggesting that's not a good thing, because I understand that access and fundamental access to websites is hampered a great deal. But I remember back in the day, let's call this early 2000s, when we were still building a lot of websites in the company I worked for and doing content management and being able to publish structured content and clean HTML and clean code and clean, and there were all kinds of requirements that we used to have to meet to basically meet ADA compliance and publish things in a way that the readers, the technology at the time, the way that the readers would work for the blind, would read websites to people. And so in some cases, you had to publish an entirely different website, basically one that was, compliant with the readers and all those kinds of things. So this reminds me very much of that. which is in the short term, I think this is a publicity play more than it is a real challenge. I'm not saying they're not earnest about it. I'm just saying that, it's definitely sort of a, it's a little bit of virtue signaling in my mind.
Sure.
But should they do it? Should people do it? I think so in the short term. I mean, it certainly makes sense in the short term to make people feel more at ease, and especially the people who have larger audiences and want to maintain a level of trust, especially if they have an artist a community that of artists or others that would be more concerned about these technologies than others. Wired being a perfect example of this. Their audience is typically creative people and technical people who are going to have a little more concern over this than, say, somebody reading, Homes and Garden. And so, if Homes and Garden uses AI, I don't think their audience is going to care that much. So I think ultimately this is a short-term play that will wear itself out quickly.
But to your point, if you're in the art industry and you're in the tech industry, this is something I think you should do now. And
yeah,
so this is
absolutely.
how we're dealing with. You're right.
100%.
If you're the Gift Card Association blog, you don't have to necessarily do this.
Yeah, I mean, photography sites used to disclose whether or not they had digital photography, right? Or they would accept digital photography. Same kind of thing, right? In early art magazines used to have to disclose or chose to disclose whether they would take digital art, created entirely in Photoshop. And so I think this is similar to that, where depending upon your audience and how passionate they are about this topic, it makes more sense than else.
Yeah, fair enough. We'll see. We'll see where it goes.
Right.
But I would. I think that if anybody listening to this has an editorial mission statement, they should read this article and integrate what you can for the time being, because it's a living document, anyways.
Well, here's the interesting thing is what I like about it is the fact that it generates discussion.
Yes,
right. It about what is the right approach. Because by taking a stand, by actually publishing a stand and saying this is what we will and won't do, it generates a discussion about whether or not their audience likes that or not. And I think that's a good thing for a brand to do, to have the discussion with it, whether or not you publish a manifesto. If you're a content creator, having a discussion with your audience about it is, I think, is a positive thing. It's just the only thing it can do is deepen the trust.
Mm-hmm. So kudos to Wired for doing this. We'll see how long it lasts. Everything seems so fleeting these days.
Boy, no kidding. It's just moving fast. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for our Rants and Raves section, where Joe and I go off on a little bit of a rant or a little bit of a rave that makes us feel like we've just come out of 80 for Brady, or that we actually haven't had to sit through that movie. And I'll let you decide on your own.
No, hey, but before we do, we should talk about all the places they can get us, and then we'll go through.
Oh,
right!
Fantastic!
Let's do that.
Thank you for catching me on that. Of course, before we get to our Rants and Raves section, thank you so much, Joe, for correcting me on that. Yes, please do get to our website at thisoldmarketing.site, where you can get all the shows, all the links for the show notes, and of course you can subscribe to newsletters that we have out there, including Joe's The Tilt and my little newsletter, The Experience, for our Experience Advisors community. It's all wonderful there. You can get all the wonderful stuff. And by the way, you can leave us messages. We've been getting your voicemails. We've been getting your emails through the site. Thank you so much for that. The story ideas are great. The ideas are great. Your kind words are always appreciated. We love it. We love all of you so much for listening to this show. You can also hashtag us up on Twitter, of course, with This Old Marketing. I'm still debating coming back, but I am monitoring the Twitter channel for all the story ideas, so do continue to do that. I'm getting added a lot, and I'm just like, I want to respond.
I know. You're going to have to do it. Yeah. When you do your book launch, it's going to break you. You're going to have to do it. I'm gonna probably have to come back soon. It will break you.
All of that is there at thisoldmarketing.site. We will break you. What do you predict? Pain. Oh, that's two movies. That's two different movies. All right,
movies,
never mind.
But two good ones, yeah.
All right. Do you want to go first?
I'll go first. Mine's quick and easy.
Okay.
This is sort of fluffy and a little bit sentimental, but I wanted to share it. I put it in my random newsletter because I think that we get so, and we're, you and I talk about this AI stuff and content marketing and book launches all the time. What's really important? And I saw this post from Sahil Bloom, and I follow Sahil on LinkedIn. And basically, Sahil made a list of the 10 things I know I'd regret on my deathbed. Now, this is very dependent. This list, I'm just going to go through the 10 and then I'll head over to yours. But these 10 are very dependent about where you are at in life and what your age is. But I want to go through these and it's interesting. So basically, number 1, not spending enough time with my kids during the magic years. Of course, you need to have kids, so it depends. My kids are older now. But number 2 is much more interesting to me right now because of where I'm at in my life, not spending enough time with my parents during their remaining years. So think about that. Number 3, not training my body and mind during the middle years. That's so important right now. I have so many of my friends that are struggling health-wise right now. So don't take that for granted. Number 4, allowing true friendships to atrophy over time, sort of like I did when we stopped this podcast, Robert. So we had to bring it back because our friendship was that important. Number 5, allowing negativity to linger in my life. I love this one. Number 6, letting money control my life. Oh my gosh. Number 7, not leaving something that lasts beyond my life. Why are we doing what we're doing? Number 8, wasting precious time stressing about the stupid little things. Number 9, not working on things I consider meaningful. And number 10, allowing my quest for more to distract me from the beauty of enough. So a little sentimental, a little fluffy in places, Robert, as you know, a little Jack Handy-ish, if you will. But I like it because it gets you thinking that, hey, it's not just all about creating a better piece of content or a better story or building an audience. It's really about why are we here in the first place. So just a nice little friendly reminder, and I'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah, it's a good reminder. It's a good reminder in so many different ways for, because I don't have kids. Both my parents are gone. And so, but I'm a little older, just a little bit older.
Just a skosh.
And so, just a skosh. But all the stuff, what I really resonated with when I read it, when you sent it over, was the stuff about not confusing more with enough. Because I've definitely been guilty of that in the past. And not understanding what I'm really trying to pull out of the universe, what I really want to manifest in my life. It's not necessarily more, and I learned that in my lesson in that, as 2019 turned into 2020, that lesson came crashing down on me in a big way of the more versus enough versus health, and so those things are connected, and it's such that is a hugely important lesson to really start to think about. Be really clear about what it is you want, what is enough, right, and then that's start working from that because it's important for sure.
Yeah, and there's so many things, right? The stressing over stupid things and the health one. I mean, it's just make we all have control over these things. So and maybe that's the thing that I want to get across to a lot of people. And when I do some mentoring, I talk about that is a lot of these decisions that we fret over, we have 100% control, but some cases we feel we can't do it for some reason. And you just have to keep asking yourself, why do you feel you can't do it? And you get down to the point where it's just your own fears. You absolutely can make these decisions. If you decide to do them, you've made the decision, but you just are not doing it because of, for whatever reason. So it's this whole thing. Right. I can't do it. I can't make that. I can't make this money. I can't take this job. I can't. Well, don't say can't. Say you don't want to, or you won't, or you can do it, but it will take these things to get there. But there's no can't, right? Come on.
Yeah, that's right. It's another great reminder that worry is the most useless emotion that there is. Worrying is not a useful emotion at all. There's nothing useful about it. And so it's not meant to say that you shouldn't feel fear or regret or concern. It's to say that worrying about things like that is not a useful, productive use of your life. Deal with it or don't.
And worry comes from indecision.
That's right.
So if you're worried about something, you're not making a decision somewhere.
That's right. Exactly. That's exactly.
So there you go.
All right. Well, that was lovely.
That was lovely.
I like that.
Let's keep it going. Nice. Let's keep it going with something positive.
Well, okay. I'm not going to do that. Actually, I am. I'm going to rave very quickly about a site that So I've just finished the final manuscript on the book.
Yay!
And
Congratulations.
I spent my Saturday. Yes, I spent my Saturday. There's more than 70 citations I have in my book. And when I wrote the book, I was like, oh, I'll just come back to this, right? I'll just come back. It's like, capture the link, capture the book title, put it into the footnotes, and I'll come back to that. Boy, but I probably would rethink that now that I'm, to do it all over again. However, and this is not I get nothing out of this. There's no affiliate link, nothing about this. I just wanted to put a shout out for a site called easybib.com. Maybe you all know about this. I did not know about this.
Is it EASY or EZ?
Easy, EASYBIB. So it's basically easy bibliography. So it's easybib.com. And it's free. So you do look at ads, but you put up you open an account so you can save your work. And boy, the name is in the title. I mean, it is easy to do, and you just plug in a URL. Some publications, it's interesting which publications it finds easy to find. Talk about structured content, where it finds the author, the date, and the title, and it's all good to go. And it basically formats it in whatever style. I mean, they've got like 27 different styles of bibliography that you can have. It just made things so damn easy, and you can export it out. And it just, I mean, what I thought was going to take me all weekend took me about 4 hours to do. It was just, It was great.
So it's Easy Bib is like the NWA for bibliographies, is what you're saying.
There you go.
Little easy E
So if you have a need for that, I couldn't recommend it higher. Again, I get nothing out of this. I'm just a shout out. I don't know anybody there. I got it referred to me by my publisher. And I was like, this is fantastic.
Nice.
I'm going to start using it now for my white papers. I'm going to start using it for a lot of things. Okay. The thing that I want to sort of provide commentary on, and we'll link to this in the show notes. And now I know it's the information is where the article comes from, and I know it's a paid subscription. So some of you are there's no free version of this, unfortunately, because it isn't exclusive. It's an interview that they did with the OpenAI president, Greg Brockman, and it's just a fascinating interview. I mean, it's a really, if you're into AI and really into the development of it and sort of the philosophies behind learning models, I think it's just a really insightful interview into the challenges that they have. And the sort of angle that the author of the article took was around the criticism around the Elon Musk has recently said about how OpenAI and ChatGPT is left-leaning versus being independent, quote unquote, and that how Elon Musk is promising to make a non-woke version of ChatGPT, which is just at its face ridiculous, but okay. So the idea and what is really interesting to me about that particular angle and what I was talking about earlier in the show is, and by the way, Greg comes across here as thoughtful, as interesting. He fully mea culpas the idea of that they should have done things perhaps a little differently because they got a lot of criticism for the values that they did put in or didn't put in to ChatGPT before releasing it. And so he says some of those criticisms are absolutely warranted. He said, but we're all charting new territory here. And basically the interesting thing to me was, and this gets back to what I was talking about with the verticalized very specific learning models here, is that Greg talks very specifically about that. He said, as people start building out these tools, as he says, people should have the ability to have their own specialized versions if they want them. In other words, you should have a specialized version of ChatGPT for students that won't give answers. Or you should have a specialized version of AI that basically does one specific task or that uses one specific or a limited learning model. And he said that's basically, that's what a lot of people are missing right now, is that he's not putting a lot of these hard-coded rules into the open, and again, the name is in the title, into this open system that they have created. They have not decided to put their finger on the scale of anything. He said, because whose values would we actually put in there? He said, would we put our values in? Would we put somebody else's values in? Would we put whose finger should be on the scale? He said, so we've made decisions around keeping this as open as we possibly can. But what we have to remember is that by keeping it that open, that it is indeed a reflection of what it learns. So it's a reflection of all of us. And by its very nature, will have bias that will shift over time. In other words, it may be that left bias is on the internet right now. Because why? Because it's more popular, because it's right, because it doesn't matter. It will always reflect the entirety of the learning model. And that's what we have to remember as we use these tools for our businesses, for our creative process, for all of the things that we're doing, is that we're such in the early days of looking at where the limits are and where we should put limits and where we should put our finger on the scale or not. Should we change the way that students do essays, or should we provide them only access to limited learning models that won't allow them to do such? Any of those things are possible now. We just have to start making decisions. And it reminds me so much of the old Marshall McLuhan idea that we shape our technology, and thereafter our technology shapes us. And we have to be the ones to make the decision about how it's going to shape us. And that is the important thing here. And I just think it's a wonderful interview and very insightful and just really important in the sort of all of our path of learning about what this is all going to be about. So go read it.
No, I love it. And it's been a long time since you brought in Marshall McLuhan. So thank you.
Yeah, okay. At least 2 weeks. Yeah, at least 2 weeks before I bring in McLuhan. Yeah,
I just scratched it out. I'm like, it's been too long. I mean, like, what's going on?
Yeah,
where's the Marshall McLuhan insight?
There it is.
Gonna be.
There it is.
So
there it is.
Very good.
Of course,
very good.
Very nice. What's up for you this week?
Oh, we are heads down. It's No. We're taking. Of course, we keep going with book promotion, but Creator Economy Expo. We're really pushing hard. 3/31.
Oh, I've heard about that.
3/31 is our early bird deadline. This old marketing listeners, the coupon code is TOM200, all caps, to get $200 off. Make sure you do that before 3/31. We want to see you there. I believe that Robert and I are, well, I haven't really talked to you about this, but I think that it's going to work out where you and I can do a podcast in Cleveland together. So
that'll be fun,
right? Can we do that?
Yeah, of course.
You're up for it. We're going to have I got
nothing else to do.
There's going to be a podcasting studio on the show floor. And so you and I will be there. We're going to do it. I think we can do it if it works out live in front of our wonderful listeners. And we would love you all to be there to see us. Just be idiots in person instead of just through
Can we get
audio.
alcohol again? The one time the 2 times we've done this, we've had alcohol. So I think we should have beers or something.
Yes. Oh, that's for sure. Yes, we will. We're going to work something out. Of course, I haven't told the operational team yet, but they like it when I spring things on them in the last minute.
Yeah, of course.
They seem to really dig that. Anyways,
I know they do.
What do you have going on?
Well, we're again just. It has been a busy front end of the year. So, just a lot of client work has been great. Just finished the book, so I have freed up a little bit of my time to do other things, and I'm thinking about my presentation for CEX. So I'm thinking about that, and that's going to be fun. Working on my new Content Marketing University class for 2023. So it's busy.
Wow. Busy time.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, busy time. All right. Well, that is all for us this week. Thank you so much, by the way. And we will see you again next week. And remember, until we see you again next week, that it's your story to tell. Tell it well. See ya. We'll see you on the next This Old Marketing.